Does anybody have a favorite Michael Jackson album? I sure as hell do. And it's pretty bad. If you go up to anybody and ask them what is their favorite Michael Jackson record, a lot of them are probably going to say, assumingly, it's either going to be this one or Thriller. I can't deny that Thriller is an absolute phenomenal masterpiece of an album. Almost every single song off that record went to #1, and it made a shitload of cash. It was very well in the critics' reign, and it did well commercially and artistically as well, because it really showcased how much Michael Jackson has improved, coming into his own, getting a buttload of new ideas and sounds, and writing new material, and coming in as a performer, breaking away from that R&B sound and coming into as a much more pop musician. Incredible fucking album. But going into the later 80s, my favorite album of all time is this one right here. Almost all my favorite songs come off of this particular album. The tour alone, his first ever solo tour after he broke away from his brothers from the Jacksons' Victory Tour in '84. From 1987 up until 1989, it was the Michael Jackson World Bad Tour. I've seen a lot of the performances. I've seen the entirety of Yokohama. I've seen the entirety of Wembley Stadium from 1988, Yokohama 97, and I've seen various clips throughout the interwebs of this particular tour, and sure enough, the passion, the energy, the drive, the fucking set list, the fans going nuts, the choreography, the presentation, oh my god! It is an absolute spectacle to behold and watch and witness. This was literally Michael Jackson in his prime. I mean, listen to the set list he had from 1987. You had Wanna Be Starting Something, Things I Do For You, Off the Wall, Human Nature, This Place Hotel, She's Out of My Life, J5 Medley, Rock With You, Lovely One, Working Day and Night, Beat It, Billie Jean, Sugar Bite Onto the Ground, Thriller, I Just Can't Stop Loving You, and Bad. But once 80 and 89 came around, you ended up getting some newer songs tossed into the slot, replacing some old ones and replacing them with some new stuff. You had Another Part of Me, Smooth Criminal, Dirty Diana, and The Way You Make Me Feel and Man in the Mirror tossed in this particular set list. Now, preferably, I actually like the 1988 to 1989 set list a little more. Why? Because it added a lot more songs from the Bad album onto this particular list right here. But breaking away from the Bad World Tour, which is, like I said, fantastic, there was a movie. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Now, a lot of people are going to say that this movie is part of their childhood, growing up when they were young, during the 80s, 90s, 2000s. Whenever you saw this particular movie at a young age, a lot of people, I'm sure, grew up watching it. The movie itself is fun. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a fun movie. Now, this film is basically like an archive of live footage, music videos, and a little short film that is going on. Now, the song list, you got Man in the Mirror, which is the opening track of the entire movie. It's showing the Bad Tour highlights of him performing it, and the fans going nuts, passing out, just displaying of what was going on throughout the Bad World Tour. Then after that, you get a opening montage of the history of the Jacksons to solo career, a very beautiful compilation, collaboration of different video of him as a young age and the Jacksons rolling into him a little bit older throughout the Off the Wall tour that was going on, the Triumph tour specifically, then into the Victory tour, then into current dates of the Bad tour, and a lot of the songs giving highlights and clips of his most profound, outstanding, well-known hits. Then it goes into a music video of Dirty Diana. Then it goes into a version of Bad, but it's a kid's version. So then after that, the movie itself, once it goes into the main time where after the kids transform, going through the smoke, and it showcases Michael Jackson and his crew as adults, you see a lot of claymation characters wanting to get his autograph, wanting to bother him, and just to get a little signature. Then it goes into a little video of Speed Demon, claymation of fans chasing him, and a little fun dance-off between Michael Jackson and Spike the Rabbit. Then it goes right into the main story alone, thus leading into the interpretation of Michael Jackson being the hero of children that he is well known of being. Or the main story is a man named Frankie Lido, or Mr. Big, basically, which is a rib towards Michael Jackson of a name that he was called, Frank Lido. But anyways, he is a serious drug dealer and wants everyone to get onto substances, starting with small children. Obviously, Michael Jackson and Katie were watching Mr. Big, played by Joe Pesci, talking about this, and obviously wants to put him out of his misery and not necessarily want to commence his evil plan. So Mr. Big finds out Michael was spying on his evil plan, thus making Michael the hero attempting to stop Mr. Big from his evil doings. Now, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, obviously the name of the film, I like to call this Smooth Criminal the movie, because the music video Smooth Criminal, do I even have to bother talking about or giving a lecture about the music video itself, leading into from him running away from Mr. Big's crew, thus going into this bar where it was set in the 1930s, reminiscing how Michael Jackson just popped into this bar and seeing how, before all the cobwebs came about, how this particular bar just ran about with a bunch of mobsters and gangsters roaming around and just, having a drink, pretty girls, etc. But then again, the music video, I'm not even going to bother saying a little lecture about it, because it's a fucking masterpiece alone. Just, if you take away just a glimpse of that video out of this movie, and just, then again, you can watch the music video yourself. It's a fucking masterpiece. It is absolutely incredible. It's a movie in its own. And by the way, Smooth Criminal is my favorite song that Michael Jackson has not only written, but it's also my favorite track off the Bad album. So after you see an interlude of Smooth Criminal, then it goes back into the main story, where Mr. Big ends up taking Katie, and Michael Jackson is basically, the best way to interpret it is that he is wounded. The guards beat him to the punch, but once the shooting star comes around, he ends up making his wish, and it goes full sci-fi. He turns robotic, fights against the evildoers, putting Mr. Big out of his misery, thus going into Michael Jackson reuniting with the kids, and it goes into a fun little rendition of him doing his cover of Come Together. That was originally written by the Beatles. And he did a little live performance of that, adding more of a poppy rock version to it, and it's badass. The movie itself, now, if you look at it, some people are going to say that the story itself probably doesn't necessarily make sense or really add up from the way you're watching it. Some people are going to probably say that, but then again, when I watched it, I did understand that, sure, the story itself may be a little cheesy, but then again, it's us going into the music video that is just, it's a chef's kiss. So, overall, to really talk about Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, it's a fun little popcorn film. There's no denying that. For any Michael Jackson diehard fan out there, they absolutely love the movie. Then there's the critics out there who will say that the movie is a little confusing. It's going by Michael Jackson's reality of what's going on through his daily life with the press, going on stage, fans, etc., etc. Different interpretations. Then there's my interpretation of what I'm saying from what's coming from me is basically a compilation of celebrating Michael Jackson's creativity as a writer, as a performer, the songs that obviously is promoting the album alone, I'm assumingly the world tour as well. It's just a big promotion of Michael Jackson's songs from the album thrown into the movie itself, trying to give a little story going on. I mean, you got the little silly cheesiness from the Hollywood scene, thus going into the music videos, then into the main story itself. It is a fun film. It's a fun popcorn film. It is a fun picture to put on if you want to listen to Michael Jackson, whether it's a record, or listen to his songs, celebrating him as an artist, as a performer, as a writer, as a choreographer, you name it. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I was one of those people who actually ended up giving this movie a generous, passable rating. I actually gave this movie a 3.5 out of 5. It is a fun movie. It is definitely something to watch when it comes to listening to music or compilations or short film. Not the greatest movie of all time, and obviously it is not a bad film, no pun intended. But it's sure as hell a fun movie. It is enjoyable to watch, and I love listening to the tracks, and I like watching how each song is representing a different chapter that's going on. As for favorite scene besides the Smooth Criminal music video, the Man in the Mirror opening prologue, it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, thus going into the montage alone. Seeing that compilation and everything, really beautiful. So, with that being said, folks, that is my little talk on Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Let me know down below your thoughts about the movie and your favorite song off of the Bad album. And with that being said, folks, ciao for now.